it's your girl Marnaé Thompson Haynes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We are available on every podcast platform if that is your jam. Check us out. And of course, Instagram and Facebook, and here on YouTube. So let's jump right into it. This is going to be part 1 of 4 that talks about the different sectors of aviation. So sectors are commercial regional, commercial mainline, private, and charter. And so we'll discuss those 4 in the first 4 videos of So You Think You Want to Be a Flight Attendant series. So commercial regional. Commercial regional means that you work for a solely or wholly owned company and they have a contract with a mainline carrier. So here's what happens. The mainline carrier says, I want to start servicing Des Moines, Iowa. Or, you know what, we really need to add a 4th Chicago to Miami route. But overhead is going to be too high for us to do it. Is there any way that we can service these markets? So a regional carrier then shows up and says, hey girl, hey, I have a fleet of airplanes. So when the regional company shows up, they present themselves as a company that can operate those flights for the mainline carrier. So they come to an agreement, and in the agreement, the mainline carrier says, okay, we are now going to market and promote these new destinations and routes. And because you own your own airplanes, you can operate them and absorb the cost and everything, that comes with the overhead. But I need you to paint some of your airplanes to look like ours. So that's why you'll see at the airport, it will say United Express, Delta Connection, American Eagle. Those are all regional carriers who have a contract with a mainline carrier. And the agreement is, we're going to streamline the product. So you'll get our products, you'll get our snacks. We're going to paint your airplanes to resemble ours. We don't want them to get on a plane that says, Fly Me Airlines. Because then they're going to say, well, I bought my ticket on Delta, assuming this was going to be a Delta product. And I like Delta products. That's why I'm a loyal member or a loyal customer or whatever. And I thought that this is what I was going to get. So the mainline carrier and the regional carrier come to an agreement and say, yes, you are Fly Me Airlines. But when you're working under me, you're going to operate all your airplanes that we're going to come to an agreement on how to pay for and paint them to say Delta Connection. That way the passenger is not confused. And when they get on your plane to go from Atlanta to Jacksonville, they feel confident and comfortable that they're on a Delta plane. You're going to get the same Delta snacks, the same Delta drinks and all that kind of stuff. Gate agents, ticket agents, all that kind of stuff will be Delta employees. Sometimes they are Fly Me Airline employees too, depending on the city. And that way the passenger doesn't see any difference in the product that you're getting. But in the meantime, go ahead and operate these routes for me and I will cut you a check. The regional carriers get paid from the mainline carrier. I don't know if they just get a lump sum or overtime. I don't know how that works, but they get paid by the mainline carrier to operate those routes for them. Sometimes it's just an extra route. Sometimes the mainline carrier does, for instance, like I said, Chicago to Miami, and they know they want to add a 4th route because the demand is there, but maybe not enough to fill up an entire 737, but the demand might be there to fill up an Embraer 170 or a 175. So, and that's about half the passengers. So they want to get the revenue from that. And they don't want to underserve a destination. And so they'll make a contract or create a contract with the regional carrier to serve that destination. So once that agreement is made, the regional carrier operates under what is called a scope clause. And a scope clause means you're going to fly a certain type of aircraft that has a maximum of a certain amount of seats. And here are the destinations that you're going to go to. Most regional carriers have airplanes that seat 99 people or less. Most passengers, commercial passengers, have been on regional planes that seat like 50 to like 70-ish passengers, because that's just typically the standard when you're dealing with like Embraer aircrafts and Bombardier. They typically have like 50 seaters or like 70 something seater aircrafts. That's just kind of standard. For every 50 seats on an aircraft, like 1 to 50, you need 1 flight attendant, and that's an FAA regulation. So if the aircraft seats 50 passengers, you'll typically just have 1 flight attendant. And that's why a lot of people think, oh, you work for a regional airline, you work by yourself. No, not everyone works by themselves. And let me tell you, I've worked for both airlines. I've worked for 2 regionals and 1 mainline carrier, and working by myself is thebomb.com. Okay. You can even ask my teachers when I was growing up in science class. Okay. I like to work alone because then projects get done and it gets done right. If it has over 50 seats, then you'll need another flight attendant. So if that plane has, let's say, 75 seats or 76 seats that it holds, then you'll need a second flight attendant, right? Because every 50 seats, it doesn't have to be like rounded up to 50. So let's say a plane has like 124 seats on it. You'll need 3 flight attendants on that. You'll need 1 for the first 50, 2 for the second 50, and then a 3rd flight attendant for the remainder, for the 24. So, and when we get into the mainline episode, I'll discuss more about how that all breaks down and wide body aircrafts and flight attendant count and all that kind of stuff. But when you work for regional carriers, typically 1 to 2 flight attendants. You may have 3 on some regional flights, but that is when they contract or charter some flights. Like some regional carriers do fly sports teams. I think like Republic was doing like the Colts for a while, or one of those sports teams in Indianapolis, because their headquarters is in Indianapolis, and they would staff it with an extra flight attendant because of the type of service that was contracted between that sports team. Within that scope, you have your 1 to 2 flight attendants, and of course you have your 2 pilots. You always have a captain and a first officer, no matter what. When you get over to the mainline carriers and you're on a wide body aircraft, you will have extra pilots depending on where you're going, like Deep South, Asia, not even Europe sometimes has 3 pilots, but we'll get into that in another episode. Most regional companies go to smaller towns, which is true. Your companies like SkyWest, Mesa, GoJets, they typically go to your smaller towns like Chicago to Des Moines, Dallas to McAllen, Texas, or just shorter flights in general. I think SkyWest does a lot of like LA, San Francisco, LA, Palm Springs, like stuff like that, which works as well. You know, that's totally fine. It's not a small town. It's just kind of a short flight. And again, that's because it's not cost effective for the mainline carrier to gas up an entire airplane to fly it from, you know, LA to San Francisco or LA to Palm Springs. They do sometimes. A lot of mainline carriers do short flights, but they don't do them in abundance. They kind of leave that to the regional carrier because it's a smaller plane, so it takes less fuel. And also with the staffing of crew, with flight attendants and pilots, it's just less overall in the overhead. And you typically don't have, you know, 150 passengers that you're taking on such a short flight. It's typically like 50, 60 passengers. So a regional carrier can handle that kind of load. When you're working for your other companies, such as Republic, they do a lot of mainline routes. So remember when I was talking about sometimes the mainline carrier just wants to add a destination, such as like Chicago, Miami, or something like that? Companies like Republic, I think SkyWest and Mesa will do them too, but they have a little bit of a smaller regional jet. But Republic has your larger regional jets, which is your Embraer 170 and your 175. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that those other airlines began to purchase those. Companies like Republic will do like, you know, your longer flights. It's just an additional flight. It's the same route that the mainline carrier does. They just, you know, don't have the staffing, or they don't think they could fill up an entire mainline airplane, but a regional carrier can handle that capacity. And I think over Republic, their planes hold like 76. Some of their planes hold like 99 passengers. So that's very cost effective for the mainline carrier to at least get, you know, 75 to 100 passengers from one big city to another big city at a lower fare. The pay at a regional carrier is a little bit less, I will say. They typically start around the 14 to 22-ish, $20-ish an hour mark. They typically cap out after 13 to 15 years at $35 an hour. And again, in the next episode, we will talk about mainline, and that pay. Mainline typically starts in the $20-ish an hour, and they cap out around the $65 to $70 an hour. So you might want to think about, you know, where you want to go. And keep in mind, I've been to 2 regionals and 1 mainline, and mainline was not on my radar. Being a flight attendant just kind of fell in my lap. I was a dental assistant for many years, and I was just getting burnt out. I was starting to get carpal tunnel. I thought about going to dental hygiene school. I thought about going to school to become a dentist, and I like applied and like did everything I needed to do, but it just wasn't in my heart, and I didn't know, you know, what I was going to do. And I reached out to a friend who was a flight attendant for a regional carrier, and I ended up applying, and I got the job like immediately, like no letter of recommendation, nothing. I just applied and got it, and it kind of fell into my lap. After that, I just went back and forth for about a year to decide on what I wanted to do, and I just decided to give aviation a try, and here I am 12 years later, 13 years later, And it's been great. Working for a regional carrier isn't the worst thing in the world. You might want to do it just to get your feet wet, or you may want to do it to stay there forever. I have a very good girlfriend who was senior to me when I came to my second regional, and she's still there, and she owns senior living facilities. Like, she doesn't have to be there, but she likes the flexibility and she likes having the flight benefits for her and her family. So as for me, once I fully immersed myself into the industry, I decided to go ahead and take the leap to Mainline, because I knew that I was going to make more pay long term. And also there were better or not better, other opportunities for me at the mainline carriers, such as instructing and management and all different types of things that are available to you when you cross over to a mainline carrier, where you can really plant your feet and have some longevity and truly retire in those positions. Or even if you retire as a flight attendant, you can do that and just have like a great quality of life and schedule and things like that. So, not everybody's driven by the pay, not everybody's driven by the benefits, but when you are at a regional carrier, you do have full benefits. You have full medical, full dental, all that good stuff. And you also have flight benefits for you and your family, and you get buddy passes on some of the carriers you're contracted with. So let's say you work for SkyWest or Republic and they have a contract with United, Delta, and American. You get flight benefits on all three of those airlines. And that is something that is very different from working for a mainline carrier. You only have primary benefits on the airline you work for. You have what are called Z fares. And again, we'll talk about that in another episode, which are agreements where you as the crew member can go and jump seat, but you don't have benefits for your family on other airlines. The cool thing about working for a regional is you will have benefits for you, your family, and friends on all of the airlines that you're contracted with. So that is super, super cool. You do fly at a lower priority just because, you don't work directly for that company, but standby is standby. Even if you work for the mainline carrier directly, you can still not get on flights. And sometimes you can just walk right up to the gate and get on. So it's not a bad gig to have. As it pertains to your schedule, at a regional carrier, you will maybe be on reserve for not at all, actually. Some flight attendants come out and they have a line right away. Others are on reserve for maybe 1 to 5 years or so, and 5 years is stretching it for a regional carrier. And so basically being on reserve means that you're on call. You do have a set schedule or window when you're on call, like crew scheduling. Then that's the department that calls you to tell you that you have a trip. Oops, sorry, I kicked my phone, guys. They don't have just 24-hour access to you. There's a call window. Well, I take that back. Some airlines do have 24-hour reserve, but even with 24-hour reserve, there's still like a set schedule, like you're on reserve Monday to Wednesday or something like that. If you're interested in becoming a flight attendant, go ahead and head over to our website at airplanesandafros.com and click on About or About the Creator and then Website. That will give you free access to our 7-day e-course. I'm going to be covering everything in these videos, but if you don't want to wait that long and you want to get the e-course, it is only 7 days long and it is jam-packed with good information. That way you don't have to write this stuff down. You can just print it out, highlight as you go, and highlight those airlines that you're interested in. But if you just want to just click around and get your feet wet and see who's hiring, see where people are based or companies are based, go ahead and head over to our website. And again, that's airplanesandafros.com, About or About the Creator, depending on what type of device you're using. And then click on a website and you will have full access to clickable links that will take you to each and every airline that you're interested in, whether it be mainline or regional. It is available to you. So that's it, you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so incredibly much. I was so nervous, and I thank you so much for tuning in and taking this journey with me. I promise to upload every single week, hopefully more, because this is a lot of information and it's jam-packed. And for those of you who aren't interested in joining the e-course, I'm going to try to pump this information out to you as quickly as I can. But again, that e-course is only 7 days long, girl. Go on over there and sign up and knock it out. It's free 99, okay? So again, thank you for tuning in. This is Marnaé Thompson-Haynes of Airplanes and Afros, and I will see you guys in the next episode. See you later. Bye.